So let's go ahead and build this navigation bar. So the first one we're going to do is to create our index file, index.html. When we do that, we just do shift exclamation and we enter. We have this. We change the title to Navbar, or let's say Hamburger Navbar. Then we link our CSS, so we'll have a link. Of course, we'll have a relationship style sheet. Then we also have our href. Our href, we say styles.css. Then we'll go ahead and create this. So that's styles.css. So what do we do at the body? Let's have a nav, and in that nav we're creating. Let's create this div, and let this div carry a class, and let's call that class logo. So of course we just have a logo here. So after that div, we are creating another div. So this div, we have a class Hamburger, and this div we carry 3 empty span. That's span 1, 3 empty span, 1, the second one, and the last one. And after that, we'll now have, after this div, we'll have the next, which is a UL, another list element. And in another list element, we have a list item. And this list item, we have an anchor element. And this anchor element, we have a href. And this href will lead us to nowhere. So we call that, we say home. And we just repeat this for, let's say, 3 more times to make it 4. Menu items. So we say home, let's say services, let's say about, the next one, let's say about, and then let's say contact. And then we'll go ahead and give this UL a class of menu. Now if we run this so that we see what we'll have exactly. If we run it so that we'll see what we'll have. Go live. So you can see that we'll have a logo, and then we'll have the list items. So what we just need to do is to go to our CSS, and let's first have a body, and the body I want to use a font family. Let me use Helvetica, that's area good, sans serif, and then I want to target the padding. I want it to be 0. I want to target the margin. I also want it to be 0. Now the next I want to do now is to target the nav. Now when I target the nav, what do I want to do? I want to display flex, and I display flex. Now I want it to justify content, and let's make it a space between, and we save that. I want to align items, let me align them to the center, and we save that. I also want to give it let me give it a padding of top and bottom 10, top and bottom 15 pixel, then left and right 20 pixel. Good. Now I want to give it a color, let's say the background color, let me give it a dark color, let's say this. Good. Then I want the text color to be white. Now that's good, but of course you can now see that I also have to now target the anchor element. So that means I'm going to say menu. Then okay, the menu is a class, so dot menu anchor element. And when I do that, let me first change the color to white so that I'll see whatever I'm doing. So when I do that, fine. I want to remove the underline from there, so I'll use text decoration. So I'll say none. So good. Now I also want to target that menu list items. I want to remove the bullet from the list item, so I will say list styles. And when I do that, I will say none, and I save that. That is out. Now the menu is safe. I want them to be on a row, not on column, so I will say display, and then I'll do flex. Good. And then I want to give them just a gap of let's say 15 pixels, so I will see how it looks. Good. And then I just also want to target the logo by saying that logo, and I want to give it a font size, a bigger font size. Let me say 1.5 frame, and I also want to make the font weight bold. The font weight bold. Now I save that. Oh, sorry, didn't apply. Okay, so that's logo. Good. Now, remember that we have three div. Sorry, we have two div and another list item. So we have the first div that has the logo, which is the logo. We have the other div that have the hamburger. That have the hamburger now, which are these empty spans. They're not showing up, so we need to make them show up. So what do we have to do? Let's target the hamburger. We can say dot hamburger. Let's say span. So what do? We give it a width of 30 pixels. We also give it a height of, let's say, 3 pixels. Then let's give it a background of white. Good. So of course it won't show up until we now have to target the hamburger itself. That's the div itself. We now target it, and what do we have to do? Then we just say, okay, you know what, display show up as what? Display flex. And remember, they are inline elements, so they're going to show this way. So what do we have to do? We have to say 1/5 on a column. So we say flex direction, we want it in a column. We save. Good. But they should not be together because there are three. There are actually three empty spans. So let's give it a gap of, let's say, 10 pixels. So each of them will be on its own. Good. When I have that, that is good. So you could see vividly that for for this big screen or large screen, we have logo, we have the hamburger, and then we have the menu items. But of course, what we actually want is for large screens and medium screens, we don't want the hamburger to show up. So what we just have to do is to go to the hamburger and say display none. We don't want to. Now it goes off. So I think we're okay with that. But what we now want to do is that we now have to target a small screen. Now I want such that when we get to something like 480 pixel, 480 on the screen, we want this menu items to no longer show. We just want only the hamburger and the logo, because when you keep scrolling, you see everything keep mixing up. So what do? We just go and target a small screen. So I want to target, so let me say at media, I'll just be targeting at media. Let's say for a maximum width of, let's say, 480 pixel. That maximum width, that means from 480 pixel downwards, from 480 pixel, 470 in that order. I want the following CSS to apply. The first thing I want the hamburger, I want it to show up here. So I'll use display flex for it to show up. I'll save that. Now my hamburger is back. Now when my hamburger is back, I turn to I no longer want the menu items to also show. So dot menu display none. So on small screen by default, the menu should no longer show. They show by clicking on the hamburger. Let me also give this hamburger a cursor of pointer, so that when we go to it, the pointer will get there. Good. But then for us to do that, I need to set a position on this menu now. I need to set a position absolute on it. But if I must set this absolute position, that means I have to go back to the nav bar, to the nav, and then set a position relative on it. Now what do I want this to do? I want to be able to move around the menu. I want to be able to move this menu around, because I'm not an absolute here, that when I'm able to move it around the left of the hamburger or the right or the top, depending on how I want to move it. So that's why I have to set an absolute. Why the nav itself, which carries the total nav elements, will be on relative, so we can move the absolute over it. So when I do that, I'm going to set the top now. Let me set the top to a value, let's say 60 pixel, and then let me set the right, let me say 20 pixel. When it shows up, if you don't like it on the right, you can move it to the left or anywhere. Also, because it's going to show up below this nav, I am going to set the background. I want to set the background to a dark color so that we'll be able to see what we are looking at. But nothing will show up here for now. So all I have to also do, I would have to set another CSS. Let's call it .menu. Let's call it .menu.active. .menu.active. I want to set it on display flex. We will use this class to toggle it in the JavaScript. Then let's go ahead and create our JavaScript file. So we will say create a new file. We say index.js. We've created that index.js, but we have to make sure it is on the index.html. So immediately after our last nav element, before the closing body, we create a script. That's a JavaScript. We create that script, and in that script we create the source src, and there we have our index.js. So we have that. Now we now go to our index.js, and our index, what's the first thing we have to do? But then let's go back to our index.html also. On this hamburger, we have to create an ID. That's on this div, we have to create an ID. Let's also call that div hamburger. And also on this UL, let's also create an ID. And let's also call that ID menu. Now when we go back to our JavaScript, we just say document.getElement. The get element by ID. Now what ID do we want? The first ID we want is our one that of the hamburger. Now we call that of the hamburger. We want to get an event listener, so add event listener. Now this add event listener, we want to be able to click, and when we click, that's the click function. Let it run this function. When we click, let it run this function, and then on this function we also want to have document.getElement by ID. And what ID do we now want? Now we want the second ID, which is menu. And what do we want to do with it? We want to have .classList.toggle. And what are we doing there? That's that active. We set the active, and we save this so that we save. Now when we go back now, let it load. When we now toggle this, so I'm clicking on it, it's not working. I'm trying to see why is it not working. Document and get element by ID hamburger, that's correct. Let's look at our style, the CSS. I don't think there's no issue here. Okay, let's go to our index.html. Oh, okay, I think we can see that. So index.js, not this. So I think this is where the issue comes from. So when we save that now, good, we go back and then let it load. You can see we click on it now, it's working. So we'll go back to our style.css. So let's make it better on here. What we should do now is let's say, since we have display, let's have it a flex direction so that they wouldn't be on the row. We give it column, we save that. Good. Now let's give it a width. So let's say width, let's give it 200 pixel. Control save. Good. Let's give it a padding. Let's give it a padding of, let's say, top and bottom, let's say 10 pixel. We say save. Good. Now I don't like the space between this space, or the one we toggle it, you can say it's working, but I don't like this space, so I can just go and reduce the top. Let me reduce the top to 50 and let's see what happens. 50. I don't like that. Let me make it 40. Good. Now you can see that now when we click on it, it's toggling. Now if you don't like it to the right, you can bring it to the left, and then you save. It's on the left. So depending on how you want it, on the left you prefer it, fine, on the right, and that is how you can do a responsive navigation bar. You can see it, it's quite responsive on a small screen. You can see that. You can toggle it back and forth, toggle it back and forth. Thank you.